So imagine with me, if you will, two young law students, fourth-year law students, who've gained a 2-week placement at a mid-tier commercial law firm. So they've got 2 weeks to prove their worth and to hopefully get a job with this law firm once they finish their law degrees. They work hard in the first week and then discover that there's a party on the Friday night. It's the end of financial year, so there's some drinks. The law clerks nervously go along to it and have a pretty good time. One of them drinks too much and is a bit embarrassed. The next week, that law clerk confides in the other one and says, gee, I really hope that I didn't embarrass myself and I didn't kind of, lose the chance of getting employment with this firm. So I was one of the law clerks. I was the one that didn't get drunk. But my friend was really worried that she wasn't going to get a job because she'd kind of behaved inappropriately and had a bit too much to drink. As it turned out, she needn't have worried because actually she fit right in with the culture of the law firm. She was, or at least she would have been offered a job if she wanted it there. I went on and took a grad position there, but she didn't, but she would have been offered one. And the reason I tell that story is just to illustrate one of the dangers of starting out in the workplace. And it's something I'd like to come back to as one of the 5 things. So just 2 things by way of introduction. So firstly, both Karina and I are Christians, so we believe that we're saved by grace alone. Nothing we do can achieve our salvation. It's Jesus' death and resurrection on the cross that achieves that for us. And the reason I say that at the start is sometimes the things unsaid really need to be said. And this talk's going to be heavily about kind of stuff we do. So we just wanted to be really clear up front about salvation's by grace alone. And we're doing a series at Galatians at church at the moment, so we're kind of right in the, grace not works thing. Secondly, Karina and I don't have everything worked out. We're certainly not perfect. We don't have all the answers. We're not gurus or experts. We're a couple of people who've been in the workplace for a few years and wrestled with some of the issues that you face starting out in the workplace. So, 5 things that I wish I'd known when I started work. Number 1, I wish I'd understood that work is a good gift from God, but it's not of ultimate or eternal significance. I wish I'd understood that work is a good gift from God, but not of ultimate or eternal significance. In other words, I wish I'd had a better theology of work. You see, when I started out at work, I kind of thought secular work, as opposed to, superheroes like Rob and Andrew and, pastors and ministers and stuff. Secular work, it's about getting some money so you can pay your bills, you can donate to your church, and if you talk to some people, some colleagues about Jesus, then really you're kicking some goals, and that's really what it's all about. And what I have learnt over time is that that's just not the view that the Bible has of work. It's a bad theology of work. So just very briefly, I want to share with you a couple of things I've learned about a theology of work. And you go right back to the start of the Bible for this. So Genesis 1 to 3 teaches us that God's a worker. We see in the first 6 days of creation, he creates the world. So it's in God's character to be a worker. And we're created in his image. So we are little mini workers, if you like. So this thing of work is a pre-fall concept. So work is good, it's a value of itself. Work is bringing order to God's creation. The second thing we learn from Genesis 1 to 3 is that God gives us a mandate to work. So he commands Adam to name the animals, and Adam and Eve are both commanded to till the world, to have dominion over the world. They're given a role, they're told to work. So work is a value. Bringing order to God's creation is a good thing in and of itself. So whether you're a garbage collector or a general practitioner, whether you're a plumber or a professional, work is of value. But we also learn from the Bible that work is not of ultimate or eternal significance. I listened to a sermon by Tim Keller on work, and I really recommend it to you if you get a chance. If you just Google Tim Keller, all his sermons are most of his sermons are online. If you've got 30-40 minutes, I highly recommend it. But he talks about this a bit, and we see from the Bible that God rests on the seventh day of creation. So God rests, and that sets up a bit of a pattern for work. And we know that the trajectory of the Bible is towards ultimate rest. We know that when the new heavens and the new earth are brought in, when Jesus comes back, that is one kind of eternal rest. So work is temporary in this world. Secular work is temporary. We know that the kingdom of God won't pass away, but this world and our work in this world, that secular will pass away. So lots of things flow for this, but a couple of things just in terms of our identity. So we shouldn't attach too much identity to our work and derive too much value from it. And a dose of humility is needed here, particularly if we're professionals in an area where the world kind of attributes a lot of value to it. So the first thing I wish I'd known was that work is a good gift from God, but it's not of ultimate or eternal significance. Number 2, patience and hard work are required because success may come more slowly than you expect. So the second thing I wish I'd known was that patience and hard work are required because success may come more slowly than you expect. When I started out at work, I finished uni and I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was kind of God's gift to the law. And I soon discovered that wasn't how the law firm regarded me. I spent a lot of time in my first year down at the Administrative Appeals Tribunal photocopying medical records, and that is as boring as you imagine it. You take the staples out, you put it on the photocopier, you hit the button, and you do it all again, times 1,000. And it's just not that much fun. And I spent a lot of time doing that, and a lot of time doing fairly basic kind of menial work in my first year. I found it pretty hard. Most people don't go through law school going, gee, I really want to be a workers' comp lawyer, you know? That's kind of my heart's desire. It's not a sexy area of law like intellectual property or something like that, environmental law. Actually, I've discovered it's a pretty good area to work in, but that's just by the by. I was given responsibility at the law firm eventually, but I kind of had to prove myself first. So success didn't come quickly at all. I had to be patient and I had to work pretty hard. So it's good to work hard at work. It's good to bring glory to God in the way that we work, even if you're doing a basic or menial job. So I encourage you to be patient. Promotions and more responsibility, more meaningful work will probably come, but it might not come as quickly as you expect. I just want to be clear about what I'm saying here. I'm not saying be passive. We're not called to be doormats at work by any means. If people are asking you to fetch cups of tea and stuff, and your job is to be an accountant or an engineer, then maybe that's not entirely right. But I do want to encourage you to be patient and to work hard. And this is a lesson I'm still learning now and still applying now. It doesn't sort of stop in your first couple of years. Success might come, but it might come more slowly than you expect. So, number 3, things that I wish I'd known. It's best to take opportunities when they present themselves, so say yes to as much as you can. So it's best to take opportunities when they present themselves, say yes to as much as you can. And I'm really thinking about work experience and relationship building with your colleagues here. So I'm cheating a little bit. I got given this advice in my first year of work, and it makes sense really. If you're at an architectural firm and a senior partner of the firm says, hey, come out and do a site visit with us, do it, build your experience base. If you're an accountant and you get an opportunity to kind of go to some seminars, do it, build your experience and your knowledge. It's a really good thing. And I want to expand that to even the kind of Christian witness side of things as well. So if you get opportunities to go to Friday night drinks with your colleagues, please do. Go out for lunch with them, get to know them, share your lives with them. Take the opportunities if things of the gospel or kind of things where the Bible has some input, have something to say about it. Do it respectfully and gently, but have some input. Take your opportunities. And of course, with this third thing, we need to be careful within sort of boundaries of conduct. So I'm not saying sort of take opportunities to do things that aren't Christian, like lying or cheating or stealing, those sort of things. But take your opportunities. So that was the third thing. Leads me to the fourth thing that I wish I'd known, and that is that you'll probably be tempted to conform to the prevailing culture, but maybe not in the way that you expect. So you'll be tempted to conform to the prevailing culture, but maybe not in the way that you expect. So as a lawyer, I often get asked by friends, and particularly Christian friends, how on earth can you be a lawyer and a Christian at the same time? The assumption behind that being, of course, that lawyers lie all the time. So that's definitely not true. In fact, lawyers have to uphold fairly high standards of conduct, and you can get in a lot of trouble, including having your practicing certificate taken away if you start fibbing and you get busted. So I was alert to this. I kind of knew that I had to be on guard, to be honest, at work. But that wasn't really where the temptation came from for me. So, as I mentioned earlier in that story about my friend and I in our clerkship, there was a real drinking culture at the firm that I went to. So there was a kind of a work hard, party hard thing, and Friday night drinks were a real thing. So I used to go along to Friday night drinks and have a couple of drinks, and then usually we'd go out and we'd have some kind of after drinks at a bar or a pub or something, sometimes here. Usually not in the cells though. And I just want to be clear, I'm not kind of saying I was getting wildly drunk every weekend, but you know that old thing where you've got kind of Christian holiness or righteous living on this side, you've got kind of falling into sin on this side, this kind of dividing line. I was kind of playing that game, trying to get as close to the line as I could without slipping over it into sin. And it's just the wrong approach. Really, as Christians, we're called to be holy because God's holy and to flee from temptation. So we're to go the opposite direction from that line. So don't try and get as close to the line as you can without slipping over it. But holiness is actually going the other direction. And I really got that wrong in my first couple of years at work. Your temptation might not be alcohol, so your workplace might be different. It might be swearing. There might be a lot of the ordinary language that gets used. It might be a culture of flirting. You know, men and women might interact in a way that, as a Christian, it's maybe not right to. So different challenges in different workplaces. I find these days I'm married, and if I go home drunk, my wife will probably have a bit to say about it. So I tend to be fairly reasonable on the grog these days. But you don't need to be married to have that accountability. Most of us live with either housemates or we have trusted friends at church, and that accountability can really keep us honest there. So the fourth thing was that you were tempted to conform to the prevailing culture, but probably not in the ways that you expect. Fifthly, I wish I'd known that it's easiest and best to start handling your money as you intend to continue. That is, in generous sacrificial stewardship. So it's easiest and best to start handling your money as you intend to continue. That is, in generous sacrificial stewardship. Now, Karina's going to talk a bit more about this kind of start as you intend to continue idea, so I won't steal her thunder. But going into full-time work, you'll probably find that your income increases significantly. It's probably going to be, at least it was for me, more money than I'd ever earned before. And the temptation there is to increase our expenditure up to the same level. It's really easy to do, trust me. All of a sudden you start buying more clothes, seeing more movies, spending money on food. I spent way too much money on lunch. But we're called to be generous and sacrificial stewards. So the Bible quite clearly calls us to be good stewards of our money. We know that everything we have comes from God. So all the money that we have is entrusted to us by God, and not just portions that we give away to church or mission or social justice or whatever it might be. So start as you intend to continue. Invest in the kingdom of God. And I got some great advice from a fellow named Ian Harper, who's pretty well known. He's a Christian professor of economics, or at least he was. He's now a partner at Deloitte Access Economics. And he said, build a gap between how you do live and how you could live. In other words, he says your income might support this kind of standard of living, but live down here, and then the balance is going to be made up by savings and giving money away. And I thought it was some great advice, and it's something I've tried to put into practice as I work. So it's really good to save for a house deposit. That's a really sensible thing to do. But ultimately, our security isn't in this world. So don't save for a house deposit at the expense of being a generous sacrificial steward. So the fifth thing I had was, it's easiest and best to start handling your money as you intend to continue in generous sacrificial stewardship. So 5 things to conclude. I wish I understood that work is a good gift from God, but not of ultimate or eternal significance. Secondly, patience and hard work are required because success may come more slowly than you expect. Thirdly, it's best to take your opportunities when they present themselves. Say yes to as much as you can. Fourthly, you'll probably be tempted to conform to the prevailing culture, but maybe not in the ways that you expect. And fifthly, it's easiest and best to start handling your money in the way that you intend to continue, in generous sacrificial stewardship. So I want to wish you well. It's an exciting and challenging time. Work can be frustrating and difficult, but it can also be rewarding and fulfilling. So I want to encourage you as you start out. It also presents quite unique opportunities to get to know other colleagues, people that we wouldn't necessarily come into contact with, to share your lives and to share your faith with them. So good luck, all the best, and look forward to having some questions later on. Thank you.